All right, we return now to our top story, and that, of course, has been the laying to rest of business and icon Dr. Richard Maponya. Our reporter, Balentle Mtetwa, has been there, and she joins us now live just to give us a little bit more about what played out today. Balentle?
Good afternoon, Peter. Yes, indeed. It has been a very long day, which started out as early as 6 a.m. at the home of Dr. Richard Maponya, where the funeral procession left the home of Dr. Richard Maponya in Hyde Park and went all the way to Soweto, where he began his life as a business person and as an entrepreneur, and started to live a life and lead a life that would inspire many Black South Africans to go into business. But right now I'm actually joined by one person who says she has also been inspired by the life and times of Dr. Richard Maponya. She is also a trailblazer in her own right, one of the very few women in the mining industry, and probably even the first to actually even, pave the way for women to go into the sector. I'm joined by President of SAMDA, Bridget Radebe. Thank you so much for speaking to us. She is also the chairperson of Black Business Council. Thank you again for speaking to us. Please talk to us about how you will remember Dr. Richard Maponya and how his life has inspired you.
May I start by saying I'm quite sad that the end has come, but I'm inspired. And I look at who came today and the caliber of the business leaders that are here, or from all spheres. And I see what the work that Maponya has done. When I was a child and I was the first Black person to enter the mining industry, to build mines, he was one of those that called me to say, even if you're a woman, continue. And Mama Marina Maponya called and said, my dear child, you're the agent of transformation, pioneer of change, economic activist, continue. We are now the proteges of such great men. My father, ABC Motsepe. I'm happy that Lisolang is still alive. But I'm so sad that Maponya has died. And I'm just saying that may he rest in peace. And Nafkok, we are the proteges of those that grew up in the creative business of having to deal with those obstacles that say because you're Black you don't belong, because you're Black you can't have a title deed, because you're Black you can't have access to finance. But we conquered. Look at what happens today. If you look at the caliber of people that came to this funeral, you have just to continue celebrating the legacy that he's leaving behind, the business leaders that are here. And we say, Tate, Papa Maponya, don't worry, we are there. We will continue. We'll carry that baton and we'll continue. We'll fly the flag. We continue to emancipate. The socio-economic and political liberation has been emancipated. The political liberation has been achieved, but the economic emancipation of the Black people have not been achieved. And it's our job to take over. And it's our job to continue. And thank you, Papa. Thank you. He's now there, joining my father, joining all the others that has done such great work. And Mama Maponya is there with all our parents. And we are just saying thank you. And may they rest in peace and continue with us all. In heaven, we will continue to conquer, and we will not rest until the economic emancipation of the majority of the people has been achieved. And the majority of the people can at least have food, clothing, and shelter on their desks in their houses.
Will you be heeding Sam Mutsonyana's call for Black business formations to unite in order to address some of the economic issues that the country is facing right now?
I think in Black business and white business, the unity is very important. That's what Tata Mandela did. What did he do? After creating the new South Africa, he called all political parties and they all united. And I think the unity of all business in South Africa to fly a united South African flag, Tate Mutsonyane is great. He's still alive. So we will continue under his guidance and with us all try and pave the way to seek that unity that will create an entry of formidable people within the African continent, an entry within formidable business leaders within the European continent and on all other areas of the world. I'm going now to the World Economic Forum. I'm one of 40 leaders of the Fortune Global Forum that has been invited for the CEO Forum. And that's where we are going to continue echoing the sentiments of what is needed in our country.
Thanks so much for speaking to us. I am also going to be speaking to someone who knew Dr. Richard Maponya very intimately, Felicia Mabuza Subtle, who also spoke quite fondly of Dr. Richard Maponya and spoke to him as a mentor. She was speaking during the service that was held at the Soweto campus, where she spoke about how Dr. Richard Maponya was a mentor to her and even affectionately referred to him as Papa Maponya. This obviously means you had a very close relationship. How did he inspire you? I know you are also a trailblazer in your own right, and you've also inspired a generation of broadcasters. What role did Tata Maponya play in this?
And it's a joint role. It was a role between Papa Maponya and Marina Maponya. I should call her Mama Maponya because that's how we called her then. And I say they played a role in the sense that when I was a young woman, a young girl, I'm sure you saw that little picture that was rolling all over with me standing behind them there. And we wanted to become hostesses at their events. And when you were picked to become a hostess, you had made it. So I somehow was so lucky I was asked to come and be a hostess at most of these events. But as I always say, you cannot be what you cannot see. What I saw at those events were these Americans that came, and most of them were black, and they were dressed beautifully, they spoke eloquently. I wanted to dress like them, I wanted to be like them. They gave us their business cards. I looked at these business cards, and in front of those business cards were titles. Behind those business cards, behind their names were just alphabets. I was a little girl growing up in Soweto. I did not know what those alphabets meant, but I knew that I wanted those alphabets. Somehow they epitomized education. So I decided to go out and go and get those alphabets through the Maponyas. And I'll tell you why I say through the Maponyas, because that's where I met Congressman Charles Diggs at that event. There were people like UN Ambassador McHenry, there was Ambassador Young, there were Arthur Ashe, there was Stella Starr, there was Percy Sledge, there was Brooke Benton. So I was rubbing shoulders at a very early age with those people. And if I could get that close to them, I knew I could come at least close to them, if not hopefully one day better. And that's why I want us to continue to, with young people, make them realize that the dream is possible, even for that little boy growing up in the dusty streets of Soweto, that one day you can. Then Congressman Diggs got me to go to Washington, and that's where I went to work for the Urban League. Where did I meet the Urban League director? At the Maponya home. And I worked at the Washington, D.C. Urban League at that time and came back home. But when I came back home, I had seen what black people can aspire to be like, and I wanted to be that. And I got a scholarship, first thanks to my present husband, who gave me a head start because he got me to apply to universities there and send me a package. And in that package was my ticket and my first semester paid for. He said, I'm not a man of much wealth, you're going to have to find a scholarship. Fine, thanks to George Soros, somehow through Dr. Herbert Vilagazi, I was able to meet George Soros, and the rest is history. He paid for both my undergrad and grad education. And that's it. That's what I think I'm trying to get across to young people. Marina Maponya got me to do the first Face of Lux, yeah. I think Shamenu Jaji was first, and then Marina Maponya was the one they wanted to do the ad. She says, no, there's a young girl who lives across the street there. That girl is going to move mountains one day. And that's why I say to all of us in the boardrooms of South Africa, women who are sitting there, you have to pull up a chair for another young girl to come there and sit at that table. You cannot fight those battles alone. You need other women to fight that battle with you. It is a war out there. And thanks to Obama, who ultimately said women need to be leaders. If you gave this world to women to lead for 2 years, he said we'll see nothing but change. I do believe that if you did that, you'd see Ubuntu being reincarnated again, because when we divide it among so many of us. I don't know any relative of mine that I have not helped in some way or other. I've either sent them to school, I've either helped them financially, I've either helped them, empowering them with information, whatever, but I have.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There you have it, our very own Felicia Mabuza Sattel speaking to us about how her life was inspired and changed after meeting both Dr. Richard Maponya and his wife, Marina Maponya, talking about how they actually played a big role in the woman that she became later on in her life, and how she then sought after education because they taught her about education and they actually inspired her to be better. And after having been a hostess at one of those events that Dr. Richard Maponya used to hold at her household, she was able to, be inspired to seek after education and to go after those titles that she saw on different business cards during her time when she was serving there at those events. But I'm joined by someone else who knows Dr. Richard Maponya very intimately. This is as a father-in-law. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr. Mabuse. Thank you so much. How will you remember Dr. Richard Maponya?
Wow, I could write a book about my father-in-law, first of all, may I say, and may I first say may his soul rest in peace. Well, one of the things that was said today at the funeral is that he was a stickler for perfectionism. And for me, I felt it was a privilege to have been very close to him in the way that I would pursued any of the businesses that I engaged in. And every time that I needed information as to regards to things that I needed to do, he was always at hand. But what was very important as well is that when my children were getting married, I would always ask advice from him. And he would always guide me on how to approach this and deal with the decisions that I have to make around, handing my children away. But more than that, I was the son that was the son-in-law, because I guess I was the one that was most privileged in the relationships that he had created with many of his family members, and so especially his sons-in-law, because I was always around. At any given time he would call. He even knew my birthdays, much as I also knew his birthdays. So there was always this father and son kind of relationship, which I cherish so much. But what is very important as well in this is that nothing is fulfilling more than seeing the grandfather of your own children coming to see them getting married. That for me was the most special moment that I'll always remember and cherish.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There you have it. That was Sipho Hotsticks Mabuza just talking about his relationship with Dr. Richard Maponya and how he will remember him, and just saying that it was a very proud moment for him when he was able to make it to both his daughter's weddings. For now, though, it's a wrap from here at Westpark Cemetery, and it's back to you in studio.
Mbalenhle, thanks very much indeed. That's our reporter at the funeral of the late Dr. Richard Maponya. And as you can see there, a number of people from all walks of life, and many who have in their own rights have been quite prominent and iconic in many fields, paying their last respects to Dr. Maponya.